Welcome everyone to welcome everyone to another edition of Unravel Your Mind. We're here to help transform relationships to love and life. If you have questions, quandaries, concerns, any of that is all welcome. Write it in the chat. In future episodes, if you want me to answer it more privately, like you don't want to write the information in your YouTube account chat, you can always message me on Facebook. I'm at Beth Bell. You can always message me on Instagram. I'm at Queen Bliss B. So either of those work for a private message. And I've had way too much coffee today. I have to say, just a little side note. I don't normally drink coffee. I drink matcha tea, green tea. It's beautiful. It's calm. It's rejuvenating. But this morning at 5 a.m., I decided to have a bulletproof coffee. And no, this is not an advertisement, although I do love bulletproof because it keeps my mind typically really clean and clear. But today I had too much. And it just really, really took my focus off because it just created so much chemistry in my brain. And so I guess the word to the wise is just really monitor your intake of caffeine because it really can have a real negative effect. And so today I feel like, wow, I'm like out there with the brain chemistry off balance with so much caffeine in my system. So we're going to get started though. I've got lots of questions. I'm super excited to answer them. Good stuff coming through. I love it. And so let's just start with question number 1, and don't hesitate to put your questions in the chat here on YouTube. Okay. First question, then I see we've got some live questions coming in, so I'll read that in just a moment. I am having a discussion with a married male friend that I've known for over 10 years, and he's been married the entire time. Recently, out of the blue, he has been texting me good morning and good night. He says he's just checking on a friend. I just find it odd. I believe there's more to it than just checking on a friend. I'm wondering, why are you even thinking about me? Am I overthinking it? Well, first of all, I don't think you're overthinking it. And I think you got to trust your gut, because your gut is telling you that this is just off, right? I mean, I always think, well, would I want my husband waking up saying good morning and good evening to someone else? It doesn't mean that you can't. I'm just saying that if this is out of the blue, it's a man testing the waters to see if there's any inroads, and he's probably unhappy with his own situation. So I would just call it right out, not necessarily call him out because you don't really know until you ask, but call it out by asking, hey, like what are your intentions with this sudden, inquiry about how I'm doing, and with such consistency that one would normally have in a much closer relationship than what you and I have, right? Just like get right in there and just get to what is the crux of the reasoning. And if maybe he just wants to have another friend, and maybe he just is reaching out for a really legitimate reason to connect and to want to connect into your advice and your wisdom and your high vibe. And that's great, but clarify it. You've already got the gut feeling. You already know that there's something a little bit off about this, because most men do not do this without some other intention. And it may just be very innocent, but find out, right? So before we start making up too many stories about what might be up this man's sleeve, I'm always just a big believer in just asking, having clear communication, and finding out what is the reason that this is happening. And I think you're going to be able to just find, a really great space to be with this friend and support them in whatever way that they need, especially if it's out in the open. And I always like to ask, from a very loving place, is your wife okay with this, whatever that is? So if you're in a situation with a married man, I like to touch base and just say, hey, does your wife know that we're in communication? Or does your wife know that we're going to dinner? Or how does your wife feel about our relationship? If I get any feeling that there might be a little bit something more on the agenda, and I don't mean that it always has to be like a sexual agenda or, having an affair agenda, but I just like to keep the energy clean in my relationships with my male friends, because especially when they're married, with all of them, but especially when they're married, because I honor my fellow sisters out there. And whether I know their wives or not, especially when I don't know their wives, I want to make sure that I'm not like a big secret. So hopefully that's helpful. If not, please write more in the questions in the comments, and I will be sure to elaborate on that next week. Okay, so we've got a question here in the live. When I want to work, but I'm not sure where to start, what is the best thing I can do, and how do I know I am making progress? Work meaning healing the trauma. My therapist told me maybe my pattern relates to something that repeatedly happened to me when I was a child, but I really do not remember. Oh no, coffee. Yeah, be careful with the coffee. I'm telling you. I'm not a huge coffee drinker with frequency, but when I do, I got to be careful on that one. So, yeah, I think this is a great question. When I want to work, but I'm not sure where to start, I'm always going to go back to your higher self. And that's the place that's the juiciest and that has the most insights as to why something's coming forward for you, because it is something hidden. I think your therapist is probably on it. It's something hidden in that subconscious mind, and in a place where we don't always know, like, what is the program? And so where to start would be, I think, journaling in a quiet space and asking yourself the question, what is this about? And this can be whatever the particulars are of your situation. Because it says meaning working and healing from trauma. So I would ask yourself the question, what is it deep within me that feels unresolved? And maybe even start with, if you don't get anything right in that moment, maybe it's starting with the deeper the deeper emotion. Like, what is the emotion that I am feeling right now? That's also a way to get deeper in. Why do I feel so sad? Or why do I feel angry? Or why do I feel whatever that emotion is that you're feeling deep within your body is a really great place to start. And I think if you just let the pen or the pencil write itself, that's the best place to be, because when we're trying to do this from our mind, we're not going to get very far, because our mind is going to take us in these loops. It's going to take us round and round. But when we do it from our heart, and we do it from a place of quiet stillness, which is why I think journaling can be such a great thing, and perhaps lighting a candle and being in a place where you're not going to have all these distractions around you, people and music and things that want to take that mind into that wandering place. Do your best to reduce all of those and just sit. Don't drink coffee if possible before you do this, because when we drink coffee, of course, then that just makes us not as focused and not feel as clear about what the messages are that we're trying to receive from our higher self. So hopefully that is helpful. If not, please write me more here in the chat. Let me look and see, just in case I got any more insight on that. So if I answered that, if not, please let me know. I'm happy to add more to that. But I think journaling and just being in that quiet space, quieting your mind, because our therapist can only do so much, because everything is within us. So yay, I'm glad that was helpful. Lily's barking too. She says yes on that. So how do I know if I'm, it's not showing me the rest of the comment because the little heart is over the top. If I am in progress, that's so strange. It's, I can't read the word. How do I know if I am making progress? Okay. I think, again, it's, how do you feel? Are you feeling calmer? Are you feeling more at peace? Are you feeling that you're able to really shift the energy of whatever it is, if it's sadness or if it's a pattern? If it's a pattern, and let's say it's a pattern with people, is it something that you're seeing come back around? It might be with romantic partners, or it might be with friends, or it might be with your family, or whoever you're having the pattern with. If you're seeing the same people come back around, or the same things, or the same situations, maybe it's a pattern with money, maybe it's a pattern with an emotion. That's, I think, where you figure out like where your progress is. But I want to say something really important here, because I think that we don't want to be in the judgment of our progress either. We want to be an observation of our progress. It's a very different energy, because when we get into that place where we're really trying to make a judgment, we're evaluating ourselves, that's always going to be the mind. That's going to be the mind trying to sabotage your peace, joy, love, and happiness in this moment of now. So you really don't want to do that. You want to do it from an observational place, from a place that feels really really solid and centered. So hopefully that adds a little bit more help for you as far as the progress goes. And again, write the question, journal it. Like, what am I making progress? Asking your higher self. I think that's always the best place to go. And if you're finding, just in general, maybe not specific to this question, but in general, if you're finding that when you're journaling that you're not getting the answers that you want, just really do your best to quiet the mind. And one thing that I've been doing for years, I haven't done this when I sat down to journal specifically, but it's coming to me to share that if you have a flower in your home, whether it's a fake one or a real one, I would actually sit with the flower and I would stare into the flower and just allow the beauty and the magnificence of that flower and the energy that it's exuding to just captivate you and to quiet your mind. If you can maybe even step outside if you want to do that, and you've got a flower out there, and just watch how the flower interacts with the sun, or maybe the wind, or whatever's happening in the elements, and just allow that to take your focus, right? Because that kind of takes the mind back into a centered place and makes it easier for us to actually have a place where we can speak from spirit within us, as opposed to just follow that monkey mind, which I think is why I'm saying this about the coffee, right? The coffee got me going on the monkey mind, to where I felt like I couldn't even focus on like what I wanted, because I was so so hey, maybe that's also something that's really legit for you in this situation, that it's reducing, maybe it's reducing sugar, maybe it's reducing coffee, maybe it's reducing something that you're taking in that's also just kind of shifting you off of that more peaceful place. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm going to go on to the next question, and if you've got more, I'm happy to answer them. Okay, so the next question that was submitted is, my friend is always throwing out things she's manifesting, like getting married in Spain. And then in parentheses, it says, even though she isn't divorced from her current husband. And yet she has health issues that she's not focused on. Do you think she is really going to manifest these things, or is she just in fantasy land? That's a great question, because I think that there's a fine line sometimes here with fantasy and manifestation. And I think fantasy is fine with focus. There's the trick, right? So we've got to have the focus on what the fantasy, the dream is, and we want to have the feeling, right? So fantasy, focus, and feeling, the 3 F's, I just made this up, spirit channeled it through, is what's going to get us to actually manifest here in this dimension, whatever it is that we're thinking that we want and feeling that we desire to have show up in our life. Now, I will say that it's possible that since this individual is not divorced yet, that perhaps she should just, think a little bit more about how she can resolve some of her current situations, and to move into, a very conscious uncoupling with her husband, because jumping to the next step of bringing someone else in, if you haven't done the work on the first relationship or the relationship you're trying to end, isn't going to bode well for that new relationship. You're going to find the same patterns show up in the new one. So it sounds a little bit like escapism, which is why I have a feeling this question came in from you as a friend, because you're like, yeah, it just sounds like it's a little bit pie in the sky. And sometimes it is. So yeah, fantasy, focus, and feelings, right? That's the combination that you really want to bring something into this reality. And by focus, I also mean, an ongoing focus. I know one of the things that I like to do is throw a lot of stuff out there, and my vortex is so full sometimes, and I don't always bring the things back down into this dimension, because I'm so quick to, want to bring more and more and more and more things in. And so that focus is always a real message that we need to heed. And sometimes it takes time and patience is sometimes not my friend either. It's something I continually work on. So have patience, trust in the universe. I also have the 5 Pearls of Wisdom workbook that comes along as a bonus with the Awakening and Healing Handbook. And I've got the 5 Pearls of Wisdom in there, which is trust, intuition, transformation, letting go, and surrender. So those 5 are so helpful with life in general, with whatever it is that you want to do. So I'll put the link in the notes below about the Awakening and Healing Handbook and how you can get that bonus 5 Pearls of Wisdom worksheet. That's, I think, really helpful. Okay, let's see. I've got some more in the chat. Yes, LOL, you took coffee for me to hear this. Yeah, I guess I did. Thank you. We're all in this together, right? Okay, so another question is, what's the best practice for healing trauma from childhood abuse? The first thing that comes to mind is that you find someone that you trust. And secondly, coupled very closely with that, is put it out there to the universe, put it out there to source, put it out there to the powers that be. What is the best modality for me? There's lots of different ways to get to this. And I think the subconscious mind is possibly one of the best. I don't know from this individual exactly how conscious you are of the trauma. So that would also play into the type of modality that I might make a recommendation for. Sometimes hypnotherapy can be a really great way to get into the subconscious mind. I also think that in the right safe set and setting, that psychedelics can be an amazing way to get really into the depths of what that trauma is. And the reason why I say that as well is that what I've experienced from psychedelics is an ability to see something with great clarity and be able to feel something without having to relive the trauma of it. And what I see oftentimes is that in traditional talk therapy, often people are having to relive this trauma because they're back in the depths of the storylines. And so we don't want to be in the depths of the storyline feeling those emotions over and over and over again. No, we want to transcend those emotions and be able to release those emotions. And so when we can get past the default mode network in our mind, that program that keeps running, that runs the emotions, that runs our body, actually, in many cases, when we can jump through that and we can open our hearts, we can open our minds, and then we can actually get to that unresolved trauma. So find someone that you trust and find someone that has a modality that resonates for you. Again, in a safe set and setting, I think psychedelics is something that you could consider. It's really something you have to dig deeper into. I have the psychedelics resource guide. Keep in mind that there's different modalities with psychedelics, and there's different legal statuses in all countries and states. So you'll have to investigate all of that for yourself. But that would probably be one of the, I don't want to say fastest, but maybe one of the most embodying ways to get to what that trauma is and release it quickly. Now, let's say that psychedelics is not a possibility for you. I think there are so many incredible therapists that do family constellation work. As I said, the hypnotherapy. I also think that getting psychosomatic work done is a way to get into the cellular memory of the trauma. And that's a way to release it without just doing the storylines over and over and over and over again, right? Because then you're getting into like the cellular memory of it and releasing it. So that's something that I would also highly recommend that you look to find. The Awakening and Healing Handbook has tons of other ways of healing and modalities. And I think it would be wonderful for you to just feel into all of the different things that are listed in there. I give descriptions. I give some personal, I talk about all of those modalities in my book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics. But I talk about them from my story perspective and what was happening for me. In the Awakening and Healing Handbook, I talk more about what the modality is and a little bit about each one, and in some cases the history of it and how it got to be what it is. So that might be helpful for you to tune in to feel, what type of modality is right for me. But those would be the top ones that I would recommend. Okay, so let's keep going here. How do you heal? Question number 4. How do you heal a broken heart from a divorce or a breakup? Well, this one is a topic near and dear to my heart because I've had a lot of big love and I've had a lot of big heartbreak. And I think that the bigger the break, the greater opportunity you have for more light to shine in. So while it never feels wonderful in the middle of a heartbreak, it's also a time when we can make the biggest shifts. I think it's the time when we're ready to ask, there must be another way. When we're in that place where we're ready to surrender our own place of thinking that we need to do this on our own. And I know that in the middle of a heartbreak or breakup, it feels like everything is related to that person out there, and it's not. Yes, they're representing a person. Yes, they're representing a very special person that you probably have a deep soul contract with and connection to. But it's important to get to what is the lessons in the soul contract that I brought this person in for me to learn. Otherwise, we just repeat them in the next relationship and the next relationship and the next relationship. So I think number 1, though, for heartbreak is let the heart bleed. Cry it out. Feel the emotions. Journal it out. I know in some of the depths of my heartbreak, just writing, again, I can't say enough about how I think writing helps us to get some of this out of us and onto the page. And it also helps connect us to the powers that be, our higher self, source energy. It takes us right up. My dear, I always call my spiritual healer, Axel, always says, use the vertical column. Don't keep trying to do it yourself down here with the mind. Go up, go up to the light, go up, ask for guidance, ask for support. You never know. You might just be walking down the street and meet someone that just gives you a little bit more light and love in your life, and it can be from a complete stranger. So never underestimate how much love is actually coming at you every day. So after you've cried it out, or maybe you cry it out, obviously it's a process. It can be over several days. There is a point where you have to pick yourself up off the floor. So you do have to actually pull up, our big girl and big boy pants and actually start moving through it, right? So we know that there's stages of grief. Well, there's stages of heartbreak, which is very similar to grief, right? We're experiencing a loss and we don't want to shove that down and not feel it, but we also don't need to stick to the storylines in a way that takes us in that downward spiral down the rabbit hole. So we want to stay up, right? We want to be able to say, oh, there's the rabbit hole. Those are all the circuitous loops of thoughts that I do not need to go down. I want to transcend up. I want to know. Give me the lessons so that I can learn them, so that I can apply them, so that I can move forward and meet someone that is here for my highest good, and thank the person. So in this case, I have a feeling that it might have been, the partner that asked for the breakup, because that sometimes makes it harder to be the one that wasn't asking for it. But get to a place where you can thank your partner, thank them for leaving, because if they're not ready to be in the relationship with you for whatever reason, maybe it's their own wounds, maybe it's you, but if they're not ready to be in it 100% with you, then you don't want them there either. So thank them for speaking their truth, right? For leaving when it's time to leave. We never know. Sometimes these soul contracts are tricky and people go out and they come back. And what we love the most, we must set free. That is so important. So set them free in your heart and your mind. Let them go, let them live, let them love. And if they've left you in just a terrible place, betrayal or whatever it might be, still find a way to thank them and let them go, because that's the only thing you can do, is to let them go. If you stay in the cesspool of all of the thoughts that are no longer serving you, you will not transcend this. And that is the question, is how do I heal from a broken heart? You heal through transcendence, and only you can do it for yourself. No one else is coming to save you. I know that sounds, maybe it sounds glim, but it shouldn't, because when we know that we're never disconnected from source and that we always have the vertical column and we can always go into that light place, that light-filled source, even in our darkest moments. And sometimes we have to get to the darkest moments to actually ask for the light, ask for another way. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm happy for you to write some comments in the chat if you want a little bit more on that, or if I haven't answered your question completely. All right, let's go to the next question. I've recently been in a lawsuit with my supplier regarding my company. I won the case, but they are making my life miserable and trying to take me down. Any advice on how to handle this situation? Well, first of all, I would say the obvious, which I'm sure you've already done, which is talk to your lawyer, talk to your accountant, get the professionals involved. So I'm sure you've done that. So I'm going to speak to it from more of a spiritual alignment perspective. I think you got to ask yourself some tough questions. Is it time to walk away? I know the response oftentimes is, it's impossible for me to walk away. I don't have anything else to walk away to, is oftentimes what's happening. I don't know in this case, but sometimes we want to cut our losses. Sometimes we want to keep going, right? Because sometimes just getting through right about to the point where we think we're going to give up is right where the big aha comes, right where the big break comes, right where things open up. But the heaviness that I feel around the lawsuit and around, other people trying to take you down, that starts to get me into, I'm not saying there's black magic here. I don't believe that for you, but it reminds me of the energy of black magic. It reminds me of the energy of something that's not here for your highest good, something that's just not here to help you. Feel deeply into that. Ask yourself the question. I would also seek advice from a psychic medium. I would try to get some remote viewing of what's happening on the other side. It might give you a few data points that help you to just understand the on the ground, third dimensional stuff that's happening, but from a psychic perspective. I also have lots of advice on different psychic mediums in the Awakening and Healing Handbook. Julie Lowenstein is one of my favorites. I can put her link in here as well. So I think that might be I know that will be really helpful for you. Actually, I 100% know that there will be guidance given. And even if you've done some other readings, I can't say enough how it's helpful to do these. Trust yourself first, tap into yourself first. But if you're not getting the messages, because sometimes this gets too sticky, we're too in it, we're just like too spinning, getting outside help is helpful. And as we know, everyone has free will in every moment of now. And so what you get today could be different tomorrow. And that's why you want a reading, because you want to find out in today, my energy and their energy, where are we? And in 1 week or 1 month, it might be different, but you want to be proactive in what can I do to shift my energy in what's happening right now. And then let the process and let the universe and let the energies and let your positive thinking and your positive mindset really help get you on a course that gets you out of this craziness. I'll just call it that, because it sounds like, that's what it would feel like if you've, actually had to go through a lawsuit, won it, and then have them, torturing you, to some degree. My words, not yours. But so hopefully that's helpful. Look for a psychic medium. I think they'll give you some real insights. And again, Julie's a great, incredible channeler. So, okay, let's see. Do I have any more in the chat? All right, we're going to keep going here. I want to be more in my feminine in my relationship with my husband. However, there's so many times that I feel I have to step in and take over that it feels impossible to not be in my masculine. Any thoughts on how I can shift this? Well, yeah, there's a lot of thoughts on this. I think, one of the other questions I'll say is that there was a question about the Barbie movie, and I shouldn't even bring it up in context of this, but I'm just getting spurred on to talk about this in general. So this isn't specific to the Barbie movie, but I think the Barbie movie is bringing a lot forward about men and women, masculine and feminine energy, and how do we navigate this, right? I feel that women have, me going into the corporate world and having a corporate life for 15 plus years, me not being in the corporate life now. There's a lot of different perspectives I have on it. And I think that women had to come in and they had to be more masculine, or they thought they had to be more masculine to survive, to be seen, to go toe to toe. And if we could rewind time, which I know we can't, but just for conversation's sake, if we could rewind time, the best thing that women could have done is come in with their strong feminine. And I don't mean their sexiness. That's not the feminine that I'm talking about. If they could have come in with their strong feminine, their receiving energy, their nurturing energy, and held in that and brought that forward, because women are powerful. We've always been powerful. We've never lost that power. We've just looked through a lens of less power. And that is the key. So I know we can't go back in time, but we can be in the now. And the now is not wallowing in anything that has happened in the past, not wallowing in things where we feel like we didn't get the fairness, or, that we had to do this and this and this to make it and to get ahead. Don't focus on that energy. Focus on how you can bring the elements of the feminine energy into the workplace. How can I bring the elements of the feminine energy into my relationship? And the masculine energy then can line up with you and you can be in balance. So whether you're a man or a woman, I mean, let's just talk masculine, feminine energy in general. You need that balance. So whatever your actual gender is, it's so important. And I think we're all coming forward with this now, realizing that as a man, there's an element of masculine energy and feminine energy. Women have been bringing forward their masculine energy more than their feminine in general, wide sweeping statements. Yes, I know, not everyone. I'm not saying everybody, but as a society, women have lost a lot of their feminine energy because for whatever reasons, maybe they thought that it made them more weak. Maybe it made them more vulnerable. But we weren't expressing the power of that energy. And so now is the time to get into your feminine. And I think that in most cases, it means letting the man be the man, letting him be in his masculine energy, speaking about a traditional relationship. And what happens is us women, first of all, we want a man to read our minds, and they can't. They just can't. They cannot read our minds. They're never going to think like us. So even if they could, it wouldn't make any sense to them. It's like crossed wires in most cases. So when we want to jump to a disappointment about that a man hasn't picked up on something, right there you gotta nip that and stop that energy from flowing, because what happens is then we want to make a judgment against our partner, and we want to change our partner. We want to give them our feedback. And I'm not saying that we don't. It's about communication. We do, but we do it in a way that doesn't demasculate them, right? We still want them to provide their solutions. We don't want to say, that's a bad idea, or you're not considering my feelings. Honey, this is how I'm feeling. And when he provides a solution, you take that into account and you say, I hear this solution and it sounds really simple, but here's how I'm feeling. Can you hear me out on where I'm at? And just have him listen, so he doesn't feel like he has to keep providing solutions that you're not going to listen to because you're not ready. Because women need to talk it out oftentimes. Women need to be in that centered place. So the minute you try to just take over and start driving, then you're back in your masculine and you're not allowing the beautiful flow of a man coming in and listening and providing a solution, a simple one oftentimes, and asking him to just, hey, can you just be with me on this ride? Can you listen with me? Can you help me process my feelings? And then in some cases, you don't do that with your man. You go do that with your girlfriend. So I think, if you want to be more in your feminine, you have to let him be more in your masculine, in his masculine. And so it's not about changing him. It's about changing you so that he can feel like he's contributing and being of service to you and your feminine. And I mean that in the most loving way. And I don't mean that you need to be submissive. I don't mean that. I mean that you need to be in a receiving energy and receiving his guidance and his support and his thoughts, even when they may not resonate or even when you may need to process something more. Allow yourself to do that, but have the communication. And don't jump on the man so quickly. And I think you'll find as you start shifting who and how you react to your man, you'll see that they start to shift. But it's not always immediate. This takes time, right? I don't know how long you've been married, but we get ourselves into these patterns over time. And so to get ourselves out of these patterns, that oftentimes also takes some time. So be patient. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with him. And if you have any other questions or you want some clarity on anything, I'm happy to jump in and add some more. Okay, let's see. I think we've got a couple more questions here. We're coming down to the end of the hour. Oh, yep. Okay, so the last question I had was, what do you think about the Barbie movie? I'm hesitant to even answer it because I feel like it just ends up with a slew of comments that perhaps are relevant, not relevant. I don't know. I'll say the one thing that I really appreciated. It's because it's not necessarily, I walked away uninspired. I know a lot of people are inspired, so hey, great. I love it. I'm glad you're inspired. But the one thing that I did really love, and I wish there was even more of in the message, is Barbie stating that she's Barbie and Ken is Ken, and the whole concept that they are individuals coming together in a relationship, whether it's romantic or not, but how important it is to know who you really are and not identify yourself with the beach or, the Barbie land or the whatever, your environment, your things. That I felt was a really powerful way to end the movie and to really bring us back to the recognition that it is all about knowing who we really are at our core, and then sharing who we are and that love that we have for ourselves with others, and allowing them to reflect to us anything that might need to be adjusted a little bit or cleaned up a little bit in our psyche about perhaps how we are programmed or a belief that we may have, and really honoring relationships that come into our life in any capacity, whether it's friends, family, lovers, spouses, and just really thanking them for everything that they're bringing forward, even in sometimes the most hurtful times. Those are the juiciest moments from a learning perspective and from the wisdom that your soul is bringing forward to learn at this point in time in your life. So it's all about ascension. It's all about transformation to love and to life, and really getting in here and getting our inner wisdom lined up with our true north, our compass, our higher self, and working from there. Then we know that we've got the soul in the driver's seat and the ego mind in the back seat, and we're well on our way to living a very blissful life in every moment of now. So with that, I think we'll end today. I so appreciate you listening. I appreciate you asking the questions, submitting the questions. Again, you can go on to Instagram at QueenBlissB. If you want to write a private message, you can go on to my Facebook page, Beth Bell Live, write me a private message with a question. And of course, each week you can come on here, write me live, and I'm happy to answer the questions and open up the discussions and conversations. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you'll know when the next one's coming, but it's every Sunday, 11:11. And I post many videos in between, so I would appreciate your love and your support. And if you really loved it and you want to share this on one of your social media networks, I would love that too. So thank you so much for all your love and support. And until next week, wishing you much love, bliss, and happiness.